To discuss this, Dikpo Oyewole, strategy and public affairs analyst, joins me now on NC Continental Prime. Dikpo, welcome to the news.
Good evening. Thank you for having me.
So what do you think of President Tinubu's capacity in this regard, in terms of delivery on his responsibilities as the ECOWAS chairman, considering that this is also one of his very earliest regional and even international engagements outside of the country?
Well, I believe that he'll do very well. He has a track record of being an excellent statesman. He's a deal maker, and if there's one thing he's quite good at, it's fostering relationships and being able to get a lot of people to work together. So I believe with that particular track record, he should be able to get the heads of the other member states to work together to see how we can have a more prosperous West African region, as opposed to what we've had in earlier years that we've always complained about, that it seemed like ECOWAS was always docile. But I am quite optimistic that in this particular dispensation, if I may say that, with President Bola being the chairman of ECOWAS at this time, that we will see a new direction and we will see a lot more prosperity in the region as opposed to what we used to have before.
And so we have seen, of course, the region have to deal with a number of coups d'etats and even attempts in the past few years. And the president did mention that. So what strategies do you think we could be expecting to see from President Tinubu, or strategies you yourself would recommend in order for him to effectively clamp down on military coups in the sub-region, as he mentioned in his speech when he was speaking about democracy?
Well, for me, I believe talking about coups, we need to look at the causes of coups. And one of it is bad governance, unemployment rates that's skyrocketing, inflation, poverty, justice and equity being absent in the system. These are issues that people need to address in their own home countries so that there won't be so much of a instability or people having issues within their country. And either we like it or not, these are low-hanging fruits and soft points where external forces try to see how they can influence the populace, to see how they can generate some form of propaganda, to see how they can plant discontent within the people, to see that all these coups do happen. But when we are able to charge ourselves to say that, you know what, we are part of the ECOWAS, this is the standard. We must see that we deliver good governance. We must see that there's reduction in poverty. We must see that there's prosperity in the region. In your own home countries, there's security. The unemployment drops year on year. Inflation drops year on year. Once there's positive economic outlook and security for people, all these incentives that give rise to issues around coups, we won't have them any longer. So I believe those are things that we need to have addressed, and not just pay lip service to saying that, oh, we don't want coups, coups are bad. We must look at actionable ways to see how we can eliminate factors that make the environment for it to be conducive.
All right, so President Tinubu did have a few things to say about Africa's reliance on the West in terms of the continent taking more responsibility for its own development, and how we could probably see ECOWAS taking a lead on that. What do you think we can expect during the president's chairmanship of ECOWAS?
We can only hope so. And I mean, it's a long overdue conversation. We've always said this for years, that there is no reason why the continent as a whole, let alone the region, should determine on the West or any external forces outside the continent to see how we can run things or grow our economies or be prosperous. There is no reason why, because this is where we have the resources. And we have a lot of people on the continent who are educated within the continent and outside the continent. So the question is, why can't we bring together all this brain power to see how we can add value to the natural resources that we do have on the continent and see how we can grow our local economies and, by extension, grow our regional economies? So, yes, I believe that it is long overdue for us to not be so dependent on the West. Of course, we can always have them as allies, share technology, share information, and conduct business with them. We're not saying alienate the relationship, but we're saying that we must see how we reduce dependence on the West and see how we can look inward to grow our own economies and see how we can be prosperous as a people, not just as nation states, but as a region together.
And very true. So, Dikpo, before I let you go, you talk about us being a region together, and there's a lot of interconnectedness, particularly with ECOWAS and sub-regional groups like it. But Nigeria, the largest economy here on the continent, most populous country here on the continent, most populous black nation, there are a lot of current internal challenges that the country is facing. How do you think these will play out in terms of President Tinubu making impact, being able to make significant inroads when it comes to the Committee of Nations and his leadership, his chairmanship of ECOWAS as well?
Well, I believe two things can be true. Every nation has their peculiar challenges, and Nigeria isn't special in that particular regard. I mean, we have the United States today being the global police, and they have internal issues today. So I don't believe that that would impede or negatively impact his capacity to be able to serve valiantly as chairman of ECOWAS. I believe that those challenges will be surmounted with time, and it will not affect his role as chairman of ECOWAS. And I believe that he'll be able to steer the entire region and the heads of states that form the representatives of the nation states that form ECOWAS into a prosperous era that we will be able to move the region into a more secure era and a more prosperous one.
And one that works for all of us. Dikpo Oyewole, thank you so much for joining me on NC Continental Prime.
Thank you for having me.
All right.